I love that. I never get sick of that music. How many times a year do I hear that music? And I love it. Thank you all for joining us. My name is Joe Lurie. We have a full 5 AMAs coming at you. We just finished our Tip to Cloud. Today, we're going to be talking about unified update management for Windows. I am here with a panel of experts, but we only have 30 minutes to answer all of your questions. So we're not going to actually waste time with any introductions. We're going to get right to the questions. And before we do, I'm first going to ask, Serby, I have a question about people. Some of my customers have been asking me if we've unified Autopatch and Windows Update for Business. I still see Windows Update for Business policies in Intune, but I also see Autopatch policies in Intune. As we unified this, where do I set my policies?
Yeah. So what we've done is we've removed the components of branding from within Intune. So if you go in Intune, all your update management should be available under devices, under Windows updates. And that is where you'll see all the different tabs for content management for drivers, quality updates, feature updates, and a releases tab as well that we've added in to show you how the overall progress of update management is working for your organization.
Thank you. And I forgot to ask you to introduce yourself before you actually answer that. So go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we'll get to the first question.
Hello, everyone. My name is Surabhi Kala, and I'm a product manager with the Autopatch team.
Thanks, Surabhi. We got a first question came from tech community. I believe this is from our long lost friend, Stefan. How long does it take for a device to see Windows 11 optional feature update after it's been created in Autopatch? Surabhi, what's the experience, the expected experience on that?
Right. So it actually depends on the health and the state of the device and the underlying client-side policies that your device might be holding up. So in an ideal scenario, if you've set all your client-side policies as recommended, your default settings to 0, basically, so that they don't conflict with your feature update optional policy that you've created in Intune. And if your device is scanning at a very regular interval, then a couple of hours should be enough for the device to receive the update as an optional update. So please go ahead, make sure your client-side policies that you've set on the device are not conflicting with the device's settings that are there in the Autopatch policy. So that would be my first step. And then the other recommendation would be just make sure the devices are active and they're scanning regularly.
Sure, that's the big one, right? That they're actually online, that they're scanning. Jason, I see you nodding your head at that answer. Do you want to add to that at all? And don't forget to introduce yourself first.
Yeah, so Jason Sandys, I'm on the Intune product group. I do a lot of different Windows things. Updates is clearly a hot topic always, particularly around Patch Tuesdays, of course. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, there's a lot of different knobs and switches that we can throw. It's a little bit simpler in Autopatch than what a lot of people may think they need. But most of the time when we step back and look at people's actual requirements, the knobs and switches are there. They're just not used to throwing those exact knobs and switches that we have in Autopatch. So yeah, exactly like Surabhi called out, just look over it, make sure you understand what each of them do. Make sure you're not having conflicts, because there are a couple of places where there's a couple of small little rough edges I think we need to smooth out, but it is possible to have a conflict. But in general, it works great, right? The fire and forget methodology that's behind all of this just makes life easier.
Great. And Akash, I see you also nodding along to both of these.
Yeah, I totally agree. It really depends on the client settings. Obviously, a lot of devices that are stuck in progress because they're not offline. And so people expect them to get the updates faster, but they're not online, so we can't scan. So keep your device healthy, keep them online, keep scanning, and you should get the updates as soon as possible.
Thanks so much. And I missed. Did you introduce yourself?
Oh, yeah, I'm Akash. I'm also PM on the Autopatch team, primarily focused on updates in general and reporting. So any questions you have, let me know.
Great, thanks. We do have a question that came from tech community about Autopatch and assigning to users. So will we be able to assign Autopatch rings to users in the near future? And I'm curious if we can get some more information from the person that asked the question on why they're looking to manage Windows updates by the user instead of by the device. But let's ask that though. Surabhi, is there any plans to assign Autopatch rings to users instead of devices?
Not at this point in time, but again, I would really like to go deeper in that and just learn why and how that scenario would specifically be used in the customer's ecosystem that they're talking about, because it does sound interesting. But what we've seen and what we've heard so far is update management being more on a device characteristic basis and not user. So really interested in learning a little bit more on that.
Thanks. So yeah, if you could, if in tech community, if you could just go ahead and follow up that question, like reply to your own question with just a little bit more information for us. Would love to get a little more details on that. And I'm sorry, did I interrupt someone? Was someone about to? No. All right. So we got this question that came from X, formerly Twitter. Is unified update management a thing related to the? Is it related to unified update platform? Or no, and I think that's a marketing question on why we named this unified update management while we already have a unified update platform. But that's a whole nother topic for discussion for later. So is this related? If not, like, what is it? What is this unified update management?
Yeah, I could take that one, Joe. So basically, we got a lot of customer feedback where they said, we're using WoofB for update management. That's using the client-side policies on the devices. Then we're using Intune for update management as a cloud-based solution. And then there's Autopatch, where you've got like extended update management solution. And all of that is very confusing for our customers. In addition to that, we also had a backend service which was helping with the deployment solutions, right? So Windows Update for Business deployment services. So what are all these terms? Where do they actually fit in? I'm doing update management using Intune. What am I really using? So as a result of all that confusion that we had created as product teams for our customers, we thought, let's just lean it down. Let's all call it unified update management. So all that lives under Intune. So if you're using Intune for your update management, depending on the license subscription that you have, you will have access to certain features or not. And that is basically the concept of unified update management. It is not related to unified update platform, which is basically more our delivery catalog, where all the content that gets offered to the devices is validated and kept into the pipeline. So they're absolutely different concept, leveraging each other.
Again, maybe marketing needs to be on these calls as well, so they can get this kind of feedback.
We can pass it on.
Joe, weren't you part of marketing recently?
Not recently. I was in the past in another life. It's been like 3.5 years since then, though. So let's move on from my marketing days. We did get another question that came in from tech community, and Akash, I'm going to pass this over to you, so don't get to come off on mute before you answer. Is there a way to have a report that shows multiple driver update group results instead of having to go to each one, click generate report, and then wait?
Yeah, we've gotten that feedback that the current Intune reports, you have to click generate every time and then do pagination and see a lot of results. Right now, all the data we have in Intune, you can leverage in log analytics and slice and dice however you want to. I'd like to understand a bit more on what are driver update groups and how typically customers manage their drivers. Right now, the reporting that we have, you can see details at a policy level, at a device update level, and kind of manage approvals in that view that we have in Intune reports, but nothing so far to kind of manage different groups, if that makes sense.
Okay. Thanks for that. And we got some more detail on that. So we currently do groups per device while we wait for the applicability feature to be available. Is the data available in log analytics anywhere? If so, can we leverage that?
Yeah, there's a bunch of data in log analytics you can use, like I said, to slice and dice based on drivers, policies, and Azure AD, which you can kind of slice and dice and make into groups yourself. And so definitely look into that.
Great. Thanks so much. And thanks for that extra detail. So fast as well. Thanks for bringing in that extra detail. We have a question that came in, and I think I'm going to go back to Serby. And Jason, please feel free to jump in if I'm supposed to be coming to you for this one or for any of these. Are there any plans to introduce a feature in Autopatch that allows for the release of safeguard holds? And please first describe what a safeguard hold is before you actually answer that question, for those people that may not be aware of them.
Yeah. So basically, when you're taking a full OS swap or a feature update for your organization, there are certain specifications on the device that block that update to be delivered to the device. And those we refer to as safeguard holes. These are determined by Microsoft internally. And there's certain things whether the device might not have the right hardware capability to move to that specific version, or any other compatibility issues with your specific device. Currently, what happens is we just automatically turn it off so that the device, even though it would be added to a policy for a feature update, it will not. The feature update itself would not be offered to that specific device, and it's reported to let you know that the device was not updated because of a safeguard hold. In the deployment services through Graph API, there is a property that you could go ahead and leverage and enable it if you would like to override that action. But it's been put into place because we believe that the device will not be successful if that specific feature update is offered to the device. So very interesting scenario to learn like the reasons why you would believe that overriding the safeguard hold is required by the industry. So we'd like to learn a little bit more, and then maybe just do deeper dives with our customers and ask that question and see if we need to build something like that. At this point in time, we do not have that capability surfaced on any experience layer.
I think a good example of a safeguard hold as well is if we notice that a Windows 11 update will fail if a specific fax is installed or a specific driver, print driver is installed, we may actually block the update from just those devices that have that driver installed. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, that's accurate.
Jason, do you have anything you wanted to add about how your experience with the safeguard holds, or anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to add there is, in general, most information on Safeguard Hold is publicly available on the Windows Release Health dashboard. So aka MS/WRH. I think someone will hopefully pop that up in the title bar or the bar down there. And you can search by ID. You can go to the wonderful reports that we have out of Autopatch reporting or WFB reporting, however you want to call them. And it will actually tell you the ID. That ID will take you, or you can search for that ID on the Windows Release Health dashboard, and you can find most of them there. Not every single one of them. There are things that we don't want to, it's not that we don't want to publicly disclose, we don't want to publicly advertise that there is a safeguard hold. But if you find an ID that doesn't show up on the health dashboard, you can contact support, and support can give you those details. So it's not like it's a secret. It's just something we don't, like I said, don't want to advertise. And at the end of the day, it's about protecting your organization from having, and your end users from having, a bad experience during the upgrade. And I think Survey said this exactly, is that if you released them and then all of a sudden all of your devices failed, you're going to have a bad day and probably a bad weekend, right? So we don't want to allow folks to do that en masse, not at this point. But we're open to feedback always. So definitely let us know.
And thanks so much. And we have on the screen, to get more information about the safeguard holds, about what they are, why we have them, aka.ms/safeguard holds, just like it sounds, one word. All right, this question came in from X, again, formerly Twitter. So, and we talked about this at the very beginning. So let's take this question. So this is changing where stuff is in Intune, in the Intune Admin Center, and what the panes are called. Nothing really changes for us if we're using WFB today, and we keep mentioning WFB, it's Windows Update for Business, but don't want to subscribe to Autopatch. So if I'm using Windows Update for Business policies in Intune, but I don't want Autopatch, or maybe my subscription doesn't include Autopatch, what's changing for me? I think is really what that question means.
Yeah, so nothing as such is changing in the experience for customers that are using WFB today. You continue to set your Windows Update for Business update client policies the way you've been doing it. But if you decide to create your policies, previously there used to be an Autopatch blade within Intune, and that's where the divergence was between the two capabilities, and that's been all bundled together under Devices Windows Update. But if you're using Windows Update for Business client policies, there's nothing changing for your.
Thanks, Surabhi. And Akash, what about reporting? Does that change at all if I'm not using Autopatch, if I am using Autopatch? Are there different reports for me to pay attention to?
Yeah, so the Intune reports are still there for customers using them. And then we have the Autopatch reports, which are primarily for the E3 volume licensing customers. The data is still going to be there. You're going to see your update rings, all your configurations there. We also have WFB reports, which we're still supporting. So you have a plethora of reporting tools based on your needs.
Great. Thanks so much for clarifying that. So, Jason, you and I both talk to customers regularly in our role. What are some of the questions that customers have for you when it comes to Autopatch, or some of the questions about Windows updates? And we talked about deferrals before. Like, what do you recommend to your customers?
Yeah, it's not a one size fits all answer always. However, I think the way updates have traditionally been, so a lot of folks that are doing updates, or it's really the managers that used to do updates 10 years ago are used to micromanaging updates. Definitely a config manager person. I still will always be a configuration manager person. And in general, we micromanaged what was going on with updates. And there are still scenarios where that's valid. If you have a heart-lung machine, if you have a manufacturing machine, right, where someone can get hurt, or that's clearly part of your line of business, you may still want to micromanage there, right, to a very granular, detailed level. But that's definitely not the norm for the rest of your environment, right? For your finance folks, for your information workers, the rest of those folks. And I called this out before. I definitely characterize, formerly Windows Update for Business, now Autopatch, as fire and forget. It can be that simple for the vast majority of your end users, and stop overthinking and stop trying to micromanage all of this for the vast majority of your users. You're always going to have certain exceptions again, right? You're going to have the CEO secretary, who of course is the most important person in the world, right, to your organization. So you may want to treat that person with, kid gloves, or, white gloves, however you want to characterize that one. But the rest of the folks, right, you definitely need to take a less is better approach to this, because most folks are used to this over the years. They're used to seeing these pop-ups. They're used to hopefully having at least a little bit of control, so they can see the pop-up and have some information about what's going on. But it's really when you try to get heavy-handed when I think things start to go wrong. And that's really what Autopatch and Woofy are designed around. Or to stop saying Woofy at all, just say Autopatch now, right? Because that's the branding. That's what Autopatch is definitely designed around, is make it as easy as possible. But again, there's a lot of knobs and switches in there that a lot of folks aren't used to. So if you haven't looked at it recently, folks don't know about deadlines. Folks don't know about grace periods. There are a lot of additional options that we've added over the last 3 or so years. Lots of learnings out of COVID and the pandemic, right, that we've put in there, that you can generally model a lot of those scenarios if you step back and look at your actual requirements, instead of trying to translate exactly what you have maybe in WSUS or in Configuration Manager and try to exactly mirror that. That's always a recipe for not being successful. So Make sure you define your requirements and implement those.
Thanks so much for that. I love this question that just came into tech community because I have many customers that have asked me this as well. So Serbi and Akash, are there any plans right now when I add a feature update policy, I say I want my devices to go to 23H2, I want my devices to go to 24H2. Are there any plans to add a latest option to feature update policies, feature update to deploy setting of Intune Windows Update Management? I was wondering why in my environment, my Intune managed devices were not going to Windows 11 version 24H2 yet. And then I remembered the setting still has to be changed manually to say 24H2. Do we have any plans to say, just always go to the latest, defer 7 days, or always go to the latest, defer however? Do we have plans for that, or is it always going to be a manual setting?
I can start off with this. Yeah, so we've heard this feedback a lot of times actually, and it's great feedback. And just to tell everyone, it is on the backlog. We've listened to you, and the whole point of Autopatch is to, basically make your life easier and let us do the work. And so we are thinking of having some sort of automatic approvals where you can just set the latest, or also maybe, something we'd like feedback on is N-1, so one before the latest. So maybe you don't want to go all the way to Windows 11 and you're not ready yet. And so we're thinking about adding these automatic policy options in Autopatch. No ETA right now, but it's something that we are looking into.
Great. Serbi, anything to add to that?
Yeah, like something interesting that they could do potentially is, I know it's manual right now, but we could also think of adding like an optional seeker capability for the first, let's say, 2 weeks. So all the early adopters in the organization could actually seek for the update at a time that's convenient to them, and then after that specific time, enforce the update. And that optional behavior could be something that would like always turn on automatically for the latest update. So good feedback.
It is great feedback. And I love that as well. The optional for the seekers in the organization. I love that. I love that viewpoint. All right, so we got more feedback coming in, and I'm not sure if it's feedback, a question, a comment, any future improvements coming to the views inside of Intune driver update profiles and policies. Right now, we can see the number of applicable devices for a driver, but not what applicable devices they actually are. This would be great to see in reverse. One could go look at a device object in Intune and see what drivers are installed, need review, or were declined. I know a device query exists, but default view under monitor would be great. Any plans for anything like that? It was a long question. If you need me to break it down, I can.
Yeah, I'm just reading through this. So right now they can go ahead, create a policy, and they can actually see what devices are assigned to that policy and what are the applicable devices for a specific driver. The question basically is that can we just reverse that so that they can see which specific device?
I read this as when I look at a driver update, I can see, 436 machines need this, but I can't drill into what those 436 machines actually are. I have
Right.
to go create a policy first, right? So, any plans to make that easier for the IT admins out there?
Absolutely on the backlog of basically just, I think, front loading that information before they create the policy of what is the specific model, what is the applicability before they even go ahead and create that policy. But it's not available at this point in time.
Thanks. And Akash, any reports that would help with this? Anything that they could run? So it may not be available in a monitor or in the into an admin center, but they could run a report.
We have future plans for adding driver update reporting in Autopatch, and so there's some capabilities there that this will probably work for, where you can do a device lookup as well as driver lookup. So in the future, we do have that on the backlog.
Great, thanks so much. This has been great. This, as I said before, this is flyby. It was so fast. We'll continue answering questions that we didn't get to. We'll be answering questions for the rest of the week, actually, so through Friday. So if your question hasn't been answered live, or if it hasn't been answered on the page yet, please check back for an answer. I'm going to ask you all to give just your final thoughts. And Surbi, I know you probably have to jump to get over to the next session because you're actually doing the hot patching one as well, correct? So I'm going to start with you in case you need to jump over to that. But any final thoughts on this topic here, Unified Update Management?
Yeah, so I'll just echo what Jason said. So Autopatch, Intune, they're designed to make lives of our IT admins easy so that they're not required to invest a lot of energy and effort on trying to troubleshoot what's happening with their ecosystem. So please use the recommendations, please follow the guides, try and set up your ecosystem using those recommendations so that all the conflicts that could arise from trying to use all the different gears and nuts and bolts, you could avoid all of that for a more smoother experience. And if you've got any feedback on our documentations, if you need more information added to that, please feel free to reach out to us. We would love to work on that more with all of you. So thank you.
Thanks, Surbi. And Akash, I know you're coming back to talk to join the feedback session later on today. That's at, I think, 9 o'clock Pacific time. What are your final thoughts? Unified Update Management, the reporting, Autopatch, Windows updates. Final thoughts for our audience.
Yeah, like everyone said, we're trying to make your job easier. So any feedback you guys have on how we can improve the experience and the transition for customers who are not only not using Autopatch right now, but want to start using it, let us know. We're trying to make a transitional, easy experience for you. And so I'll be at the feedback session as well if any feedback there.
Great. Thanks so much. Jason.
Yeah, my thought is really around getting people to at least try, right? We get questions. I think a lot of folks have shifted over from why should we do this? I think the whys are generally obvious to how do we do this? And a lot of folks just kind of get stuck on trying to answer every possible challenge that they have and make sure that they know everything that's going to happen. And that's truly, it took us 25 years, most organizations to get where they are today, where, it's clearly not going to happen overnight with anything new, but start trying doing POCs, iterative POCs, those types of things. Even with Config Manager in the picture, it's not an all or nothing proposition. You can do this. on a limited POC basis that you expand as things are successful for your org. So don't be afraid of trying. I mean, that's all of us that started out 20, 25 years ago. I mean, it was Wild West back then, right? You kind of did whatever you wanted to do. It wasn't always so great for the users. But if you do it in a controlled fashion, that's still a great way to learn, and it's a great way to get things going in your organization.
And we've talked about this. The best way to start is to start, right? Once you start, you then have that motion.
Yep.
Thanks so much. Anyone that didn't get a chance to catch this live, you're watching this recording, thank you for watching the recording. You can post questions as well. We'll keep answering questions at least for this week, the December 11th through 13th, and until Friday. So if you're catching us late, you can still post questions, probably, depending on when you're catching us, and we'll still answer them. Again, my name is Joe Lurie. Thank you so much to everyone here and everyone that asked the questions. Such great feedback, such great questions. Thanks so much. Everyone have a great day now.
Thanks all.
Thanks, everyone.